didn't know about the chakras of the earth when I booked the trip to Egypt. It's the throat chakra of the earth. And that
Yeah.
is so funny to me because it's like you just take the step that's right in front of you and trust. You don't have to
Hmm.
know all the details. Just do what's right in front of you and it's always right.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And look at it being I have worked for years on opening my throat chakra without, ever having an inkling of desire to go to Egypt ever. Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Rose, and this is Spiritual Story Time with Rose and Jamie, where we share readings from books that have opened our hearts and awakened our perspective on spiritual beliefs and practices from different cultures around the world. Jamie will be sharing a reading today. I'm so excited for this reading. You want to go ahead and get started?
Yes. We are reading from A Course in Miracles. This book was introduced to me several years ago by my dear friend, Michelle Crawford. And I thought it was a shortcut to reading the Bible, which I didn't have any desire to do, but I felt like there's a lot of knowledge in it that I would like to impart in my life without reading the Bible. It's not a shortcut to the Bible, but it was what I needed, and I've had an ongoing relationship with this book for about 3 years, and it's been rocky, but it's full of good stuff. It's full of good stuff. It's really just been a challenge for me to consume it in the way that I like to consume things. It's like, oh, this is so important, but I don't fully understand it, so I got to stop here. And then I stop for long periods of time. So that's what I mean by it. Like it started as this is something I want to check off my list, and it doesn't work that way. You get what is right for you at that time. So I'm going to share a section in here from chapter 2, which is the separation and the atonement. And the section I'm reading is section 4, healing as release from fear. So before I get started, I want to just go over what the atonement means in this book. So the atonement is referred to as the Holy Spirit's plan of correction to undo the ego and heal the belief in separation. It came into being after the seeming separation and will be completed when every separated son has fulfilled his part in the atonement by total forgiveness. Its principle is that the separation never occurred. So basically, we are all one, right? And here we go. Our emphasis is now on healing. The miracle is the means, the atonement is the principle, and healing is the result. To speak of a miracle of healing is to combine two orders of reality inappropriately. Healing is not a miracle. The atonement, or the final miracle, is a remedy, and any type of healing is a result. The kind of error to which atonement is applied is irrelevant. All healing is essentially the release from fear. If you only read one sentence in this section, that is it. All healing is essentially the release from fear. So every issue, every illness, every condition that we have has a root in fear. To undertake this, you cannot be fearful yourself. You do not understand healing because of your own fear. A major step in the atonement plan is to undo error at all levels. Sickness or not right-mindedness is the result of level confusion because it always entails the belief that what is amiss on one level can adversely affect another. We have referred to miracles as the means of correcting level confusion, for all mistakes must be corrected at the level on which they occur. Only the mind is capable of error. The body can act wrongly only when it is responding to misthought. The body, everything that's happening in the body is a response to what is happening in the mind. That's what that means. The body cannot create, and the belief that it can, a fundamental error, produces all physical symptoms. Physical illness represents a belief in magic. The whole distortion that made magic rests on the belief that there is a creative ability in matter which the mind cannot control. This error can take two forms. it can be believed that the mind can miscreate in the body or that the body can miscreate in the mind. When it is understood that the mind, the only level of creation, cannot create beyond itself, neither type of confusion need occur. Only the mind can create because spirit has already been created, and the body is a learning device for the mind. Learning devices are not lessons in themselves. Their purpose is merely to facilitate learning. The worst of a faculty use of a learning device can do is to fail to facilitate learning. It has no power in itself to introduce actual learning errors. The body, if properly understood, shares the invulnerability of the atonement to two-edged application. This is not because the body is a miracle, but because it is not inherently open to misinterpretation. The body is merely part of your experience in the physical world. Its ability can be and frequently are overvalued. However, it is almost impossible to deny its existence in this world. Those who do so are engaging in particularly unworthy form of denial. The term unworthy here implies only that it is not necessary to protect the mind by denying the unmindful. So that stuck out for me this time reviewing the term unworthy, looking at that because we work with unworthiness, struggles and blocks around that. But to think about the simple definition of unworthy is just not necessary.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna see where I can incorporate that in different ways because unworthy is has such a negative connotation when we're doing our work, right? Because we're usually
Right.
pointing it at ourselves. But if you look at unworthy as not necessary, okay, well, where are things not necessary in my life? What's unworthy of being in my life or in my space or in my mind for that matter? What's not necessary?
I love that because it lightens the energy of the word. And
Yeah.
then in the same sense, it's like then it also makes you look like, oh wow, if I'm thinking that I'm unworthy, does that make me unnecessary? It
Yeah.
totally shifts that whole perspective of the word. So
Yeah.
I love that. It's giving me goosebumps.
Good, good. It landed for you the way it did for me. And you said it better, so thank you. Oh, okay. All material means that you accept as remedies for bodily ills are restatements of magic principles. This is the first step in believing that the body makes its own illness. It is a second misstep to attempt to heal it through non-creative agents. It does not follow, however, that the use of such agents for corrective purposes is evil. Sometimes the illness has a sufficiently strong hold over the mind to render a person temporarily inaccessible to the atonement. In this case, it may be wise to utilize a compromise approach to mind and body in which something from the outside is temporarily given healing belief. This is because the last thing that can help the non-right-minded or the sick is an increase in fear. They are already in a fear-weakened state. If they are prematurely exposed to a miracle, they may be precipitated into panic. This is likely to occur when upside-down perception has induced the belief that miracles are frightening. The value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle, to attain its fullest efficacy, must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand without fear. This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. So that is the section. And the takeaway, the point is that fear is the root of all the problems in our life. Fear is the root of all evil, not money. Money is just an energy, right? I want more of that. Fear, I want less of. But fear is really, it creates all of the problems in our human life.
Right, right. Fear is like the lowest vibration that you could absolutely be in.
Yep.
And to be in that state, you're just inviting in, a lot of negative opportunities, negative choices. I have to say that you sharing this book is very in line because I've already shared spiritual reliability, which then turned me on to a return to love,
Mm.
which is a practical guide of the Course in Miracles. So now, at one point, I don't have the Course in Miracles, but I was going to get it and share it at some point. But now I don't have to because you have the book and you're sharing it. So this is really it's meant to be. It's very beautiful that you have that book and that you're sharing it. And what you're the chapter, the subject that you're sharing is perfect because so many people are living in fear right now.
Yes.
Um, so much going on in the world right now. Everything is changing, everything is shifting. The energy of the universe is shifting. We're in an age of communication, but we are shifting back into a matriarchal age from a patriarchal age, and that can be scary. Just that change alone can be
Fear
scary.
of change. Yeah, change creates fear for so many
Mm-hmm.
people, for all of us. But awareness is the medicine, right? Awareness of what's happening here. And then if you take when you have a fear, so first you have to identify, oh, okay, well, I'm afraid of this. Okay, well, why am I afraid of it? And then you go, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? And play it out for real. It's like shining the light in the scary dark corner. Well, there's nothing really there. So the worst thing that can happen, you get down to it and it's not that bad. And then it's like, well, I don't have any reason to be afraid of this. And you eliminate the fear and you shift back into love.
Right. And I think that mindset has a lot to do with that. If you're, some people can, uh, go to that space of, okay, I'm afraid, but why am I afraid? And then looking at the worst case scenario of it, they might spiral into anxiety and more fear. So going into that set and setting,
Mhm.
going into that with a mindset of staying open to um and aware that a person could spiral into more fear and anxiety, and just rising above that and saying, I am safe, being in the moment, because fear comes from the future, what is unknown, the changes. But if we always come back to this time, this space, this breath is going to ground us into this moment, then we don't need to step into fear. It's our choice. Choice and consequence is karma. And, what type of choice or action do you want to take? Do you want to take an action towards more fear? And then the consequence is going to be fear experiences, more fearful experiences,
So
or do
keep
you want to
drawing
rise
in.
above that and take that choice to take the action of love, which is the opposite of fear? Fear is false evidence appearing real. I share this in my yoga classes all the
Love
time,
that.
and you can shift that into love, easily. So it's just a matter of mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have awareness, right? So that, and that's a good point because if somebody is just everything's doom and gloom and I watch the news all day long and this is just the world, if you say what's the worst case scenario, they're going to go down a path that's not real. So what's the worst that can happen also has to be reality based
Mm-hmm.
if you're
Right.
for that technique to work. But it is true. What could you come back to in this moment? I'm safe, or else I wouldn't have the ability to sit here and play the game. What's the worst that can happen? Because I would be running from a tiger that's going to eat me or something else, which is not happening except in my
Right.
own mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it may not seem like it right now, but we are actually living in the safest time that there's ever been in history. Like, could you imagine, like, back in the dark ages, back in the iron ages and all that, there
My
was a
son
lot of,
just said that exact same thing to me yesterday. Mom, did you know we're actually living in the safest time in world history? And I was like, because he's studying world history, and I was like, I didn't know that, but it makes sense. And now you're saying it again, and it's just blowing my mind.
yeah, I mean, we used to have, the reason why we have intuition, the reason why we have this ability to sense danger. Um, we may not think that we have it, but we have this ability to sense danger because it was a part of our ability to survive. It was our survival mode. We
Yep.
had to be able to know that if this person approaching us with an axe was friend or foe, you
Yeah.
know. So we have to be able to tell that from 50 feet away. Do
Yep.
I run or is this a friend? So that ability to be able to sense that from a distance, that is our intuition. And we haven't been having to use our intuition as the world has been getting safer, but
Mm.
it's a matter of just practicing that and trusting that and getting back to that space of using this gift that we innately have within us and trusting it. So that's something that I've been working with over the past several months. And it's very empowering to get in touch with your intuition and recognize the safety from the unsafe, and this is definitely the safest time to be living in, even though it seems like it's not, because there's so much stuff on the news. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that is shared in media
Hmm.
is blown out of proportion. Um,
Well,
and
the
it's
intention
and
behind
it's
it is to create fear.
yeah, it's to create fear because fear creates control. And what happens if we can't be controlled? What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, then are we going to go back into this age of more danger and more fear? I don't think so, because I feel like with the energies of the universe and the growth that we have done collectively, spiritually, that we would like to embrace love and not so much fear. So it's really about what are you ingesting? And I think I've heard this from you as well. What are you putting in? What are you feeding yourself? Are you feeding yourself the negativity from media? That's
Mhm.
going to put you in a place of fear. How
Yeah.
about feeding yourself beautiful music or nature, the sounds of nature, the sounds of vibration from sound baths and forest bathing and that kind of stuff, because that's what's feeding us empowerment and love. And that's I get pretty passionate about talking about stuff like
I
that.
love it. I could sit here and listen all day long. I love it so much because it's true, and there's just not enough awareness around it. And it's simple. It's simple. We need to shift to higher vibrational things that we're consuming. Not the news. The news has an agenda, and that is to create fear because fear creates control of the masses. And I'm not going to go into all that because we don't need to, but just that's the takeaway right there. So,
Right.
conscious consumption. What are you consuming with your mind and not just your food? Like we know what happens when you eat junk food, what happens to your body. Okay, same thing happens to your mind. The food is different, but
Mhm.
you know the difference between quality and junk. So what do you want? What do you want in your mind?
Yeah, which goes right along with what you were saying, because if you put the junk food in your body, that's going to affect your mind. And then, of course, you're going to get into that space of, oh, now I'm sick. And then you're in fear, and then you get more sick. And then
Yes.
cancer runs over you
Yep.
and other, like heart disease and all this other stuff. So,
Yes. But
yeah,
and that's starting in the mind, just like our little chapter said, all illness starts in the mind. And
yep.
when that's a brand new concept, it can be hard to wrap your mind around it. So, like, that's part of when I say I've had an ongoing tumultuous relationship with this book. It's because some of the concepts in here were brand new to me, first time exposure, and it's like I gotta take some time to let that land because I trust that this is a reliable source of information, but I'm not understanding the the message yet. So I got to stop. And I really want to check off the box, done, Course in Miracles, done. And it doesn't work that way. But I could just read the words and check the box off, but I want to land the information that's in here because it's so much about how to live a conscious human life in the vibration of love.
Yeah. And speaking of consumption, a book like that is a great consumption method for your mind and your spirit, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, what an amazing session we're having.
If you look at it, fear and love are two ends of the spectrum, right? And every single feeling falls in there. Fear is the lowest vibration, love is the highest vibration, and everything else that we experience as humans is somewhere on that spectrum. But every single thing boils down to fear or love. So if you just like yes or no, right? So if you just take whatever it is that you're working with and go, okay, what's the root? Is the root fear? Is the root love? Then that tells you, do I turn right or do I turn left? Right? And that's an easy navigational tool for whatever you're dealing with in your life today or tomorrow or whatever.
Yeah, that is a great tool. It goes right in with the intuition and that innate ability and gift that we were given coming to this earth. You know, our spirit, our soul incarnated into our body. And this is just my belief, you know, and this is from learning from different practices and beliefs from around the world that our soul incarnates in this lifetime in these bodies so we can express ourselves creatively. We can create and have fun because when we are just a soul and we are in a different dimension, that we are all connected, we're all together, we're all melding, we're not separate. Skin does not separate us, bones do not separate us. So for us to be able to individually create and have fun, we come into this life and we create fun, or we create the opposite through
Yeah.
fear. We can create fun and joy and love and laughter, you know, or we can create the opposite. So like what you're saying, do we choose love? Do we take this route, or do we choose fear, and do we take this route? So that's fantastic. Yes.
And we're always
Yes.
choosing. It's not like, oh, well, I chose a fear route, so I'm just gonna have to play this out for the rest of my life. No, you can turn at any point. You can do whatever you want. You can shift into love anytime you want, or you can be like, hey, I wonder what fear is gonna feel like in this situation and shift into that. It's, you
Right.
know,
And then that comes right in with what we were saying about change. A lot of people fear change, but why fear change?
Mhm.
Because you're the one that's creating the change, whether you know it or not, through choice and consequence.
Mhm.
And if you choose the path of love, that's the most exciting, change ever. Like, who wouldn't want more love, joy, laughter in their life? And who wouldn't want to create that? So, I embrace change. I love it so very much. And if that means that I need to get rid of a bunch of stuff so I can go move into a home on wheels, then I'm bringing that on, because that's
Yeah.
my next goal is to,
Yeah.
and maybe that means I'm getting rid of a bunch of stuff, but who needs to grasp on and hold on to things, because that's what weighs us down and keeps our energies down.
Yes, yes, yes to all of that. I used to love change and I totally embraced it all the time. And something shifted in me when I had children. And I've been a mom for almost 16 years, and it's taken that many years for me to realize something shifted and then figure out what it is and what to do about it because I feel the resistance to change with the hat on of motherhood. And for me, it goes way back into what what was modeled for me. I kind of stepped into, well, this is what motherhood looks like. And I didn't know that. I thought it was gonna just continue being like my life had been before that. But something that was laying dormant in me just shifted, and it was like, you got to put your serious face on because this is serious business. And I don't want to live like that. And that's not, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be hard and serious all the time. Like there are moments that are going to be hard and going to be serious, but to choose to do the whole thing from that perspective is that's choice. And I'm not choosing that any longer.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a big change when all of a sudden we're responsible for another human being or two in your case, that it was the same for me almost 30 years ago. My son will be 30 next month. And when I went that journey alone, I'm the only one on the birth certificate. And it was like, okay, I better buckle down. I better get my
Yeah,
shit together
it's
so
all
I
on
can
me.
raise this other human to be a responsible adult. And
Mhm.
then that's when other people's opinions, societal conditioning, and everything like that can change and shift how we think about things. When really, if we just, and had I known this back then, just went inward, but that wasn't a practice I knew. I grew up Roman Catholic, and there was a lot of conditioning in that belief, um and I wasn't privy to just let your intuition and what feels right for you
Yeah.
lead you into the next step of raising this tiny human into an adult that can survive and live in a space of joy and love. So now, these days, I'm sort of undoing that. And now that he has a baby daughter, I'm like really excited, and I'm sharing with him books and things like that can help him and my daughter-in-law to raise their baby in a more open-minded, um, supportive way for her as a new soul coming to this world.
What a gift. There's nothing more beautiful that you could do with your own experience than heal the things and then send it forward, right? Like her life, your granddaughter's life is going to be nothing like your life, nothing like your son's life, nothing like your parents' life. And you are the catalyst for that change.
Yeah, yeah, it feels really fun.
And it gets to be fun. I know. I'm always like, I always tell my kids, listen, when you have kids, it's going to be a whole different, this person's going to be totally different. It's going to be so awesome. And, my mom was always like, someday you're going to have a kid that's going to act just like you. And I'm going to laugh. And I don't say that to my kids, but I say, you're going to see a different side of me because it's my responsibility to guide you out into the world and, prepare you for it. My responsibility with my grandkids is going to be very different. And, by then I should have this joy thing nailed down. So it'll be a very much more joyful experience.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to, she's 7 months old. I'm looking forward to um teaching her how to meditate and how to, honor
Yeah.
um her intuition and things that come to her and stuff. And I'm excited to have conversations with her.
Yeah, can you imagine what it would be like? Because we spent the first half of our life tamping down our intuition and ignoring what we knew and listening to other people's guidance, right? Or the rules of society or whatever it was. But can you imagine coming into this world and having people encourage you to listen to your intuition and tell you, that you are right, that that the answers are inside of you? Okay, so I've been preparing for this trip to Egypt, and I never had any interest in Egypt or history or even geography for that matter. So I'm like, I need to educate myself before I go. I need to know about these places before I get there so I can really take it in and really experience it. So I was watching this documentary about Egypt, and one of the things that the guy said was the Egyptians looked at human life from the soul perspective, not from the human perspective. Like we look at it as a human going through this one single life we have. The Egyptians looked at it as, okay, I'm a soul and I'm in a human body, so there must be something that I came here to do, right? For my soul. And we are learning that at this point in our life. Oh, you mean my soul has a purpose and there's a purpose for my life that aligns with my soul's purpose? Well, how do I figure out what that is? So can you imagine coming in and being taught that right away? All right, you came here for a reason. Let's figure out what it is and then let's get to it. That's a totally different ball game.
Yeah, I feel like we're coming back around to that type of energy in the universe as a whole, that nurturing matriarchal
Yeah.
age.
Bringing
Yeah.
back the yin.
Yep. Yeah. That's so awesome. I love this so much. Wow, thank you so much for sharing this. Is there anything else that you wanted to share in our call today or?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, I could probably share a lot more out of, well, yeah, there's this many pages and this is not to scare anybody off. If you're thinking, oh, I should read that book, but I don't read books this big with this tiny print. This is the combination, the Course in Miracles and the workbook so it's like a two-in-one. The book itself is about half this size if you want to do that. But I like to jump in with both feet and then go, what'd I get myself into? So here I am still wrestling this book 2 or 3 years later.
Well, I love that. Thank you for letting us all know that. And thanks for sharing that because, yeah, books that are that thick can be very intimidating. But you know what? There's also that allowing oneself to digest it slowly and be able to read an excerpt or something and then see how we can apply that to our lives. It's not like a romance novel where you just consume the book and then get
Yeah.
onto another. I feel like those kind of books are escapism tools, to just, get out of what we're dealing with. And that's, kind of like addiction. Like, what are you running from? What are you not wanting to
You're
dive into
avoiding.
and really apply to your life? So that's why I really love the spiritual story time because we are sharing these books that are helping to change our perspective, awaken our life, and see how other people have been doing it, like in Egypt, like other time periods, other cultures around the world, and everything. Because really, we have been kept in the dark for so long.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to mention now that if you've enjoyed this spiritual story time, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share this vlog, podcast, whatever you want to call it, with others, because these are messages that can help change society as a whole, and help us all grow with the changes of the earth and the changes of humanity. So
It's the
thank you so much.
vibration.
Thanks so much for being here. Again, I'm Rose.
And I'm Jamie.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. Namaste. The light within us sees and honors the beautiful light within you.